We can start a story off with just a few paragraphs and then continue adding. And by the end of the day, sometimes we have pretty detailed stories, and people have been following them all day long. Okay. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, all right. Sounds good. Thanks. And then you're going to brief them and you can release it. Okay.
Yeah, but no insurance.
Okay.
No injuries, nothing.
Sounds good.
But I pulled over to the side.
It's one of those like Disney little charter buses.
I believe it's belongs to the city of Anaheim, but I have to make sure on that.
You can't tell what's going wrong mechanically with these big buses back where the back wheels are.
Serena Daniels is the traffic beat writer for the Orange County Register, a Southern California newspaper. She is covering a breaking news story in Anaheim, and after gathering information in the field, she is back at the office preparing her story for the newspaper's website.
We're reporting the same way. We're talking to the cops. When Serena was out there, she talked to company officials, or tried to. They refused comment. She talked to the cops on the scene. She called in to Anaheim PD and Anaheim Fire, who's handling the thing. So it's the same way we dealt with the story before. We're just getting it up there 15 minutes after it happens and posting pictures 20 minutes after it happens, rather than saving it until the next morning.
Tom Gordon is the breaking news editor at the Register. He says journalistic practices have changed in recent years and that his paper has been in the thick of the online transformation. Gordon has been in the industry for nearly 40 years.
It used to be we would collect the information all day, put it together in a story about 6 o'clock, and the story would appear on your doorstep at 6 o'clock the next morning. Now it's a nonstop process. Instead of collecting those notes, we're putting the stories on there and updating constantly. So it's like it's a constant deadline.
Constant deadlines, however, have some skeptics. Former Los Angeles Times media critic Howard Rosenberg says that the constant deadline is detrimental to the content and quality of journalism.
It's enormously dangerous. I think increasingly mistakes are being made, and there's a mentality, especially on the internet, that it doesn't make any difference because the internet is a self-correcting medium.
Rosenberg spent a quarter of a century as a media watchdog, but even in retired life, he continues to keep his eye on the industry.
Everything is so fast today that there's really not much time to weigh what's happening, not much time for the media themselves, and not much time for the public who receives this information. It's because the speed of the media pressures them to go faster and faster and faster, and with that speed comes risk.
Risk that Jim Radcliffe, an assistant city editor at the Register, says can be mitigated by letting the reader know that what is posted is simply what is known at that time.
A lot of times in the story we'll say more to come, or we're contacting such and such, so that the reader understands where we're at in the news gathering process.
Speed has always been a component of journalism, probably since the beginning of times when people were writing on the walls of caves. And the faster you go, the faster your competition goes. And the faster your competition goes, the faster you want to go. Pretty soon you're sort of swept up in this, where the end result, where actually the agenda itself becomes a speed, instead of the agenda itself being the story, which is important.
Rosenberg has written about these factors in his book, No Time to Think, The Menace of Media Speed in the 24-Hour News Cycle. He says it has driven journalism to a dangerous place.
I have very bad feelings about the current state of journalism. Today it's much different. That reporter goes out not only with his or her notebook, but also with a video cam to shoot footage for the newspaper's website, and also to file continual updates during the day. Now, I maintain that there's no way that a person doing all those things can do a job as effectively as the person doing only one thing.
I mean, it's still the basics, which is going out and learning the truth as best as we can tell, and writing fair, accurate reports. The reporters have to be better rounded, they have to be well-rounded and fast. I think a veteran reporter who did his or her job 5 years ago can do the transition after going through a period of time and do it very comfortably. So I don't think it's changed as much as people think it has.
In the old days, a story would be read by a line editor like myself. Then it would go to a copy desk that had a lot of time to go over it. Then it'd go to a slot editor, who would read it again, and then it would go to a section editor. And now they get posted I read it, they get posted. You know, we emphasize speed. We try and make it as good as we can, but you know, stuff does slip through. There's not those 5 levels that we used to have.
The danger of speed is on display in the blogosphere. The Register maintains a blog dedicated completely to Disneyland, which is constantly updated with new information pertaining to the theme park. Rosenberg says blogs often lack credibility and can be a detriment. Radcliffe says blogs are another way for the paper to connect with readers.
Every day we're constantly trying to put something, make something available that's real newsy and something that people who are interested in Disney want to know about. It's not pro-Disney, it's not anti-Disney, it's just news. And but with the web getting very specific, we feel that readers on the web will want to see this stuff.
Somebody gave me the perfect definition of a blog. He compared it to an ejaculation. You have a thought, you go to your keyboard and it's going, you know, it could be nothing. It could be meaningless, but it goes out there, and there'll be a certain amount of people who will, you know, believe it and think there's some validity to it.
There's a lot of Disney blogs out there. A lot of them rely on rumors. A lot of them will print unsubstantiated things. Adam still has to prove what he writes. His editor, Jim Radcliffe, out there is not going to let that stuff get through unless it meets pretty much the same journalistic standards we had 10, 20 years ago.
And when those standards are applied, Gordon says the print and online aspects can be seamlessly integrated.
But here, I'll send you the link.
What's the link to London?
Beats me.
Are you following it up, or?
Tom said to send it to you.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind if you did it through the blog, though.
Not everything about the online revolution, however, is controversial. The internet allows newspapers to publish far more pictures than it can in its print edition, as well as incorporate video, which cannot be placed on print. At the Register's main building in Santa Ana, California, the internet is constantly on display. Television screens with click rates and web stats constantly remind writers, photographers, and everyone involved that a newspaper cannot thrive without a successful online component.
Technology is really an enabler of the entire process. But technology aside, you know, when we moved from the telegraph to the telephone, I think there was early resistance at first among both consumers and certainly on the part of business. But once people saw the benefits of it, they went to it in droves, and I think it's the same thing here. You need to be able to read widely, you need to be able to look at a variety of sources, and out of that emerges a kind of truth.
A truth, Brusick says, that can still be reported on the internet by the same reporters who used to put their work in print.
The first thing you do is hire good people. You hire good people of character and integrity, people who are honest, who are willing to say what they don't know as well as what they do know. If you practice those kind of ethics through good coaching and through discussions, I think you create an organization that's able to be credible.
From newsprint to the internet, newspapers have evolved in various ways to connect with their readers. But, says Radcliffe, what's in store for the medium's future is still not exactly clear.
I'm not convinced that someday we won't have newspapers in a much smaller subscription, almost like magazines every day, and it's a much higher subscription rate. I don't know. But in truth, nobody knows where we're going.
For now, warehouses full of newsprint will remain stocked as newspapers continue to put their stories online and in print.